Hello and welcome to Peschart's People, in which I, Michael Peschart, travel to meet the men and women leading the way in the world's fastest growing region. It's a unique insight into the most dynamic characters of the Asia-Pacific region. Film stars, writers and thinkers, artists and musicians, sporting celebrities and leaders of business. They're all part of the programme. This week I'm in Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. Now I've got to keep my voice down because we are in the middle of a service. This is the world's largest Buddhist temple complex, and I hope you're going to be able to pick up. There are literally tens of thousands of people here who've gathered for this service. Now, I've come to meet a man who's played an important part in building up this temple complex and spreading the message of a movement which is hoping to change the world. Everything you are about to see is on a grand, almost incredible scale. We were the first foreign camera crew allowed inside, even becoming part of the service. On this 1,000-acre site, they're building a new place of pilgrimage for Buddhists from around the world. They've even begun building a structure that will house 1 million pilgrims.
It's an immense structure because it's about 3.2 kilometers in circumference. So you can imagine the sort of size of roof which is going to take to cover the whole of this.
So you're going to have a temple that's going to be 3.2 kilometers around?
Yes, that's right. And in the center here is a pagoda.
Phra Nicholas is one of the Dhammakaya temple's original group of monks. He was educated in the UK, but Thailand has been his home for more than 20 years. The temple is his life's work. The day we met, as on every other, Phra Nicholas had been up since before dawn. One thing you probably don't know is that we had a huge sort of controversy in the car on the way here about what I was going to wear, because I didn't have the right clothes. I had a blue shirt, and I've managed to borrow, thank you very much, from the cameraman Dave, this shirt, which is sort of more white, because everybody here is in white.
Yes.
Why is that?
It's basically a Buddhist tradition. If you go anywhere in Asia, South Asia, and you see people going to Buddhist temples, they tend to wear white.
But why?
It sort of puts people in a frame of mind, even from the time they get up in the morning, that today they're going to do something special, they're going to be going to the temple, and wearing white is not a convenient color to wear because you do have to be especially careful about where you sit down, even the sort of things you pick up, brush against. Mostly in Buddhism we deal with states of mind.
Right.
And being detailed, being careful about the things we're doing. Mindful is a word we often use. And wearing white does tend to put you in that frame of mind, even from the time you get dressed in the morning.
But you're in orange.
By the time monks generally wear orange, it sets our community slightly apart because there are special ways the monks are treated. Like, for example, we don't come into too close contact with ladies, for example.
Right.
As a result of our celibate lifestyle. So we are set apart slightly. We don't wear white.
I understood that you sort of don't brush up to touch
we don't even come in physical contact with women.
Right.
And that's one part of our celibate practice, that we're not even allowed to come in physical contact. To sort of.
So no shaking hands, no.
No. And that's, I don't know. I guess it's very thorough rules which we follow.
Complete celibacy is just one of the many rules or precepts a monk must follow. For all their food and material needs, they rely on public kindness.
The idea of generosity in Buddhism is that we believe that what you give will be what will return to you by the law of karma. What you give will come back to you in kind. Or you set up some conditions in yourself whereby in the future you must receive. So by practicing generosity, it's like you're providing for your own future.
To help me understand, Phra Nicholas was anxious that I should make my own offering. Tell me what I'm doing so I just go, just so I know what I just want to do the right thing.
So maybe if you go behind that lady there,
Right.
you can make a wish for any way in which you hope that good things will come into your life in the future. And when you see the queue going up, then you can offer that to the monk in front of you.
Right. And do I say anything to the monk, or?
No, I don't think so, but he may say something to you. He may give you a blessing, maybe in Thai.
There are more than 1,000 monks based in this one temple. They've had congregations reaching close to 300,000 people already. I wanted to know more about what exactly it is that attracts them.
The unique thing about Buddhism, if you compare it to other religions or philosophies, is that your path to salvation depends entirely on you.
Right.
So it's up to you to work on yourself in order to purify yourself, improve yourself, perfect yourself to the point that you can achieve salvation for yourself. It's not, the onus is not on some external god or mysterious supernatural figure who is going to bring you salvation.
So there is no God as such?
We don't say there's no God, but we say that the onus is on us rather than on a god to do the work of improving on ourselves.
Right.
Therefore, people have to practice, whether it's generosity, being self-disciplined, or meditating, in order to secure their own improvement, personal improvement, overcome their bad habits, improve their good habits, and eventually become a person who is enlightened.
All of which is good. Living well can only be a good thing.
Exactly.
Being generous, that can only be a good thing. What though, as it were, what's the benefit of that? When you say salvation, I mean, if say you live a very virtuous life, I mean, say for you, what are you hoping will be the outcome of your life? You're making a great many sacrifices.
In Buddhism, we do believe in rebirth.
Right.
So we believe that what you do has effects on lifetimes to come. And as we come across a lot of suffering as a part of our life, the only way to deal with suffering in a definitive way is to make sure that we're not going to be reborn anymore.
So you don't want to be reborn?
Exactly. That's what we are practicing for, so that we don't have to come back anymore.
So where would you go?
Well, there's a place which is outside the system, which is known as nirvana.
Right, oh I see. So when you reach the highest level...
Then you don't have to come back anymore.
Right. But in a way, I mean, that how long does it take? I suppose nobody knows. I mean, this is a stupid question, I suppose. But how long does that whole process take?
Well, it depends on you. If you make more effort, then it takes shorter time.
Right.
So the idea of being a monk is that you're on the sort of, you're in the fast lane.
Right.
If you're a lay person, you may practice now and then.
Right.
Weekends, perhaps.
Right.
Maybe you're in the slow lane, but
Right.
you get there too eventually.
Right.
Maybe it'd be a few more lifetimes than for the monks.
One thing that, I don't know, interests me, bothers me, worries me, I suppose, is that there's an assumption that being a human being and life is about suffering. Whereas I sort of think of it as a joyful thing.
This is a common misunderstanding about Buddhism, because Buddhists say that suffering is the reason why we do everything, but on the other hand there is happiness, and the suffering which is unavoidable in life, things which we can kid ourselves that we're not going to meet up with immediately, things like dying or being terminally ill or even being born and so on. These are all forms of suffering which we come across. Even if we cut our fingernail and cut our cuticle by mistake, it's a form of suffering. But what we're trying to do is to overcome that.
So somebody like me, I'm going along thinking I'm happy. Am I living in
Yes, but there's, apart from the sort of obvious things like dying and death and so on, there are also things which we tend to heap on ourselves in terms of suffering. For example, our attachments. If we think that our whole happiness in life depends on having a second holiday home, and then suddenly it gets washed away by a flood and we feel devastated by that, it's because of our attachment in the first place that we feel so devastated.
I totally take what you're saying, but it's sort of negative, always sort of seeing the dark side.
Downside.
Yeah, the flip side of everything.
The other side, the happy side of it is, if you do meditate, you can find sources of happiness in your life which do go a lot deeper than external sources of happiness. if your mind becomes calm enough to the point where you go beyond superficial thinking, then you touch upon states of mind which are in themselves happy, where you can be anywhere in the world, even in positions which may be quite disturbing, but on the inside you have a refuge of calm within yourself which would bring you happiness wherever you are and irrespective of the conditions you find yourself in. And I think that's why people are keen to meditate, and they're keen to spend time at the temple working on themselves in order to touch upon those states of mind.
Coming up after the break, more with Phra Nicholas as we see further inside his extraordinary life. Welcome back. We're in Thailand with Phra Nicholas, one of the founding monks of the biggest Buddhist temple on earth. Not only are adults involved, young boys too occupy an important position within the temple.
They are known as novice monks, and from the age of about 9 up to the age of 20. One pathway of education for young boys in Thailand, instead of going through the normal education system of primary, secondary school, they can become novices, and they're sort of supported by a Buddhist scholarship throughout their education.
So will they all go on to be monks, or, I mean, it's very young to decide?
It's very young to decide. They get a knowledge of scriptural languages, they get a knowledge of Buddhism, and they also study mathematics, geography and everything else on the curriculum. But when they come to the age of 20, it's up to them whether they go on into becoming a fully fledged monk or whether they may choose to leave the novicehood and go on to get their own occupation.
We've sort of touched on it, but you've given up a lot. These boys will give up a lot. Has it brought you great joy?
To have given up things,
Yes.
or
Well, the whole thing. I mean, are there times in the middle of the night, I know you sleep on a concrete floor as I understand it, so you're asleep on your concrete floor or not asleep on your concrete floor, and you think, do you ever think, what on earth am I doing here?
I think that stage has sort of probably passed by a long time ago.
Right. And you get up very early in the morning?
Yeah, it takes discipline.
Yeah. And you don't eat after...
Midday.
You don't after... So that's... We've had our lunch, and that's that.
That's that until tomorrow morning.
What about your family? When you said to your family, I'm going to be a monk?
In the beginning, they were pretty skeptical. In fact, at one stage when I came here, they were sure I'd been brainwashed. And they actually came all the way to Thailand to make sure I hadn't been brainwashed, and I was happy here, and it was of my own free will that I was staying here.
It's interesting you say the brainwash, because you see everybody's in white. It can look, please don't take offence, sort of cultish or sectish.
Well, it's a large number of people, and I think in the West especially, if you get large numbers of people doing anything which is the same, then it tends to arouse suspicion. But if you look at what people tend to do in large numbers in the West, whether it's going on a demonstration or going to a football match, rock concert, you know, I wouldn't say that these things are really doing anything very constructive for the world.
The temple now runs its own satellite television channel to spread its teachings all around the world. I'd been asked to present a national award the temple had won for producing some of Thailand's best television programming. It was a bit daunting, really. Nearly 100,000 people had turned up by now to watch. The abbot, Lung Po, is the inspiration behind the temple, but he's not comfortable speaking English. Just as with everything to do with this temple, there is an amount of ceremony. I mean, I can't just give this award to the abbot, because as a monk it would be wrong for him to grab a present. I must first ask permission whether he will take the award, and then when I've got the permission, then I hand it to him. It all seemed to go well enough. I'd been thoroughly coached about what to do and say. Thank you. And congratulations on a second award.
Thank you very much indeed.
This awards ceremony was a major part of the service, but sheer quiet dominates most of the time. That's what brings so many to the temple. Hour upon hour is spent in meditation.
Although we wouldn't go out and try to convert the whole world to Buddhism, but the abbot here has the wish that if enough people meditate successfully, no matter what beliefs they might profess, but it will make the world a more peaceful place.
As you know, I've been in one meditation session so far. I have to confess, I sort of nodded off rather than got any great consciousness, but that's obviously I'm just starting.
Yeah.
Why do you want to meditate? Why is it important that I should do that, everybody should do that?
Because I think you need to be happy within yourself before you can relate happily to the rest of the world. And if you think about the state of the world today, where the world hasn't been free of a war for however many centuries, then you see that there is a need to bring peace to the world, unless of course you're an arms dealer or something, in which case, maybe you have a vested interest in making sure the world's always at war.
But in terms of the meditation, what do you have to do to get?
Well, the meditation, basically it's a means by which you can learn to focus your mind instead of letting it be distracted onto various different things, scattering our attentions, as it were. We learn to bring it onto a single point. And the important thing is that point should be within us.
And that's a joyful feeling?
In the beginning, there's a feeling rather of where your mind becomes captivated almost by this feeling of peacefulness inside yourself. So it's this sort of thing which I guess the mystics down the century have been advocating, but of course it's not easy for most people to find.
Phra Nicholas had one last thing to show me, a noisy, people-packed finale to our day.
In a moment there's going to be a ceremony for pouring concrete to mould a pillar which is going to be used to support a roof, which is going to be put over the whole of this structure here. Right. It's an immense structure because it's about 3.2 kilometers in circumference. So you can imagine the sort of size of roof which is going to take to cover the whole of this.
So you're going to have a temple that's going to be 3.2 kilometers around.
Yes, that's right. And in the center here is a pagoda. And the idea of this is that one of the Buddhist ceremonies is that people circumambulate or go around the pagoda in a clockwise direction as a symbol of respect for the pagoda.
It's a huge undertaking, a very costly undertaking. I suppose I've got to ask, where's the money come from?
Well, as you see, there are large numbers of people coming here, and Buddhists feel that when they come to the temple, they should do something to help out at the temple by supporting it. And with these sorts of numbers of people, even a few pence from each person, a few baht, can help to make that a reality.
When I said to a friend I was coming here, and she lives in Bangkok, she said, oh, there's been controversy over money.
Yeah.
What exactly is the controversy?
The sort of vision of this temple is not just a local vision. Most temples in Thailand seek only to look after the welfare of perhaps the people in their own village. But here the vision is much greater. We try to make a temple which is a place where people throughout the world can come to use it. So therefore, obviously, the structures are much larger than in a normal village temple. And because of that, some people feel that our temple is out of line because it's doing much bigger or more extravagant things than is normally done in temples you see in Thailand.
And there's an awful lot of money involved.
Yeah, that's true. But if you talk about the amount of money per person who uses a temple, then it would probably not be more than anywhere else in Thailand.
Right, so, I mean, I know there is a feeling that some of the money doesn't go to where it should go.
Well, I think most people, if they see that the buildings made here are well built, then they see that if they understand how much building costs, then they see that they're getting something for the money.
There is, I suppose, a contradiction, isn't there? Is that obviously Buddhism is a very old religion. What you're trying to teach and engender is a very spiritual thing, and yet you've now got satellite televisions. There are loudspeakers, as we can hear, all around us. How does that work, that contradiction?
Here in our temple, perhaps we're a little bit different from most temples, and we're not scared of using modern technology hand in hand with these ancient knowledge of Buddhism so that it does become relevant to people in a modern day and age.
Because why is that? Because presumably you're up against a whole lot of other messages.
Yes,
I mean, it's a very aggressive is the wrong word, certainly for you, but it's a very out there sort of policy that you have.
I think a lot of people, not just in our temple, have said that for Buddhism, the message is good, but the promotion is lousy.
Right.
So it tends not to reach as many people as would like to know about it. Here, we're not an evangelist temple, but we do make use of modern media because we feel that that's what people of the new generation expect from a place which they would like to be seen at.
Right, so people here with mobile phones, would you have a mobile phone or?
Yeah, because you can't find people here otherwise.
Right, so.
But we put them off when it's time for meditation.
Well, it's been a fascinating day. Thank you very much for showing me around. It's an extraordinary place.
Okay, thank
you very
too.
much for being on the program.
Next week, inside the mind of one of the world's great showmen, meet Mike Mizrahi, the brains and the vision behind opening ceremonies and some of the grandest of occasions.